I'm sure you've heard about the current massive housing crisis going on in Canada and the overall economic one and know how fucked up it is, as well as other issues such as low fertility rate and mass immigration that are plaguing this North American country. A decade ago, Canada was seen as a beacon with the highest GDP per capita in the Western Hemisphere, even higher than the United States. In stark contrast, the Canada of today has millions of its citizens lining up at food banks while the rest struggle to pay the bills and rent. Most people like to push all of the blame on Trudeau, and while a lot of problems can be attributed to him, other issues such as Canada's low birth rate is not something that can just be pinned on Trudeau, since before his economic disaster, Canadians were not having a lot of children either. I want to stress the importance of this issue over others, because it's the reason why Trudeau's government has brought in so many international students to come and gain citizenship since the start of COVID in the first place. A way Canada can fix this problem is that we incentivize childbirth more by increasing the child benefits this country gives to families with newborn children. As of now, Canadian child benefits depend on the family's income. So if you make a lot of money, your child does not get much money in benefits, but if your income is really low, you get a lot more money in benefits. This system makes sense, but I think we should increase the child benefit to further encourage childbearing amongst Canadians. This combined with a better economy can help bring Canada's birth rate up from its current 1.33 infants per woman to the replacement rate of 2.1 childs per woman. 2 to replace the parents and 1 to account for 0.1 to account for death or other problems at birth. Perhaps even past that. Canada needs to take this seriously and take measures to ensure young Canadians do end up having enough kids instead of having them worry about debt and other things that can be fixed by a government that cares about its people rather than protecting private interests. This can foster long-term growth for Canada instead of depending on the usual, let's just bring more people who like to fuck to replace Canadians at home. And while I do think that this method can work, it does not address the underlying cause and instead hurts the economy and infrastructure of Canadian cities, since there's not enough homes for all of those people coming in. Canada's openness to immigration is what makes this country special and it further adds to our diversity. But I believe if you're going to replace Canadians with foreigners, we should at least bring them in from a wide range of countries rather than just a few South Asian countries, seeing how they make up over 30% of recent immigrants to Canada. I'm not saying South Asian immigration is bad, but I do not think it is fair to people living in other parts of the world who often get their visas rejected, such as places where there's active war like Syria and Yemen, where more than 75% of visas get rejected by the Canadian government. I personally find it disgusting that the government gets to pick and choose, especially given the difference in circumstances between a lot of these newcomers, with some being innocent people escaping literal war zones and others just wanting to work a minimum wage job because their home country pays slightly less for one. I hope you guys see the obvious difference between these cases. Another thing this country should do is encourage more entrepreneurialism among Canadians, starting from a young age, since this country is overflowing with people who want to work, but so few who want to create jobs. This is why our markets are straight up owned by like 2 or 3 big companies who all agree to set the prices high at the detriment to everyday people looking to get by. Encouraging more entrepreneurialism in schools and incentivizing young Canadians to go out and start making businesses of their own will greatly benefit this country in the long run. This, along with a massive increase in research and development, will send Canada ahead in technology, those in the health and sciences. On top of that, make sure that moving forward, at least 50% of urban housing developments be made by the government. There will be some of you who think this is dumb and just make our cities look poor and ugly, but I'll remind you that modern public housing does not have to look bad and can instead uplift people and give struggling families homes at a far lower cost than the developers running Canada's top cities will. You think they care about everyday Canadians or the struggles they just go to pay rent? No, the fuck they don't. All they want to do is line their pockets and gain monopoly in this shitty free-for-all real estate market this country has. Housing should be a right, especially of people who work and have families. This is why I believe that this country should greatly increase its government housing to offset the crazy rent prices given by the monopoly men. Everything I said so far will create a trickle effect that will help this country grow and gain more autonomy over time. Recently, some of you may have heard that the US President Donald Trump has promised to put trade tariffs on Canada and Mexico when he gets back into office. He says he's doing this to hold our countries accountable for drug trafficking and illegal immigration, which, as a Canadian, I think is complete and total BS. Illegal crossings at the US-Mexican border have actually decreased 75% in recent years. And while the drug thing is true, how the fuck is Trump going to tax the drug trade if they already don't pay taxes? Neither the US nor Mexican militaries can get rid of them for good, since as long as there are consumers, there's going to be people who try to meet their demand. These drug cartels would have no power if the US just stops the weapons flow into Mexico. Trump is making it look like Mexico's plotting this fentanyl epidemic in the States. Meanwhile, most deaths that occur result from drug trafficking happen in Mexico, all to satisfy consumer addiction north of the border. Canada, on the other hand, gets its illegal drugs from the US, so Trump must have really been high on some of them when he made this BS statement to please his voters. People living outside of La La Land know that these tariffs will hurt people on both sides of the border. And while Trump won't feel the pinch because he's rich, everyday people will see the effects since the US already gets 60% of its oil from Canada and 11% from Mexico. That's just one of many things that the US is dependent on other countries for. I hope they found some new massive reserves, because if not, then the US will either need to invade another country that actually has oil or beg Canada and Mexico to make free trade again when they inevitably lose this war. Overall, I am convinced that the points I mentioned here in this video can help this great country moving forward and better the lives of the people living here. Feel free to like and subscribe and share if you enjoyed and discuss what you think I missed in this video. I wish you all the best. See ya.